Hi everyone, so today's presentation is going to be the top 10 study tips that I used to pass 12 Microsoft Dynamics 365 certifications on the first attempt. So just a little more about myself today. So hi, my name is Vicky. I am a Microsoft Dynamics 365 consultant here in Vancouver. I am also the instructor and founder of my own online course business, which is MS Dynamics Certified. I also possess 12 Microsoft Dynamics 365 certifications and 14 across all Microsoft products. So the only other two I have is a SQL Server Fundamentals as well as a Power Platform Fundamentals most recently. And as I mentioned, I passed all of these certifications on the first attempt. And today is sort of my own insight in terms of how I did it. And as always with my presentation, I leave quite a bit of time at the end for Q&A, simply because I know that everyone in the chat is going to be, well, I'm a special snowflake. What about this? What about that? So we have time for questions. Don't worry. So the number one tip I have for you, which is actually kind of my secret and in terms of lowering my stress, is physical exercise. So over 150 studies so far have shown a positive correlation between physical exercise as well as exam performance. So some of these studies have been done in Germany, in South Korea, in the US, pretty much all over the place, that shows that if you were to perform physical exercise activity before an examination, that you would score better in that particular exam. The reason for that is that if you do aerobic exercise, which is known in common language as cardio exercise, that what happens is that your body stress hormones kind of go to a lower level. And what that causes is that you feel less stressed and you feel more confident. And also you have greater focus. So what I usually like to do is that, let's say that I book an exam at 10 a.m. I like to book myself an 8 a.m. Workout session. Now, I know that many of you, including myself, are going to be scared right now to go to an actual gym. Turns out, as I learned during the last 2.5 months or so, you don't need to go to the gym to get a great workout. If you want to get Vancouver-specific resources for that, there is Hustle 24/7, which is done by the Studio Hustle, which is based in Mount Pleasant. There are also a lot of other free resources on YouTube. Just put like dance exercise or cardio exercise or high intensity interval training exercise. Those are all great, and is, I would say, my dirty secret to passing all of them. The second,
Vicky, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, no. We're only seeing slide 1. I'm not too sure if you're in presenter mode.
You see, sorry. Okay, okay, do you see this slide?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Sorry, did you see the first slide?
No, we didn't. Now we can. Brilliant. Thank you.
Sorry. So the second tip I have for you is meditation. So again, we love science because science teaches us a lot of interesting things. The first one is that a team of researchers at the University of California at Santa Barbara has shown that meditating as little as 10 minutes per day increased reading comprehension scores for the GRE exam candidates. If you don't know what the GRE is, it is the admission test if you want to do a master's or PhD in most programs. Now, I know that you're not studying for the GRE right now, at least for most people in this particular audience, but it shows that this 10 minutes per day of meditation would not apply only to the GRE, but would also apply to other type of examination as well. And there's another study done not too far from there, which is at UCLA, which shows a positive correlation between a daily meditation routine and school children's grades. So if you just do it 10 minutes a day, there's many apps out there, including Calm, Headspace, and many other meditation tapes available on YouTube. So if you do that, again, the goal here is to lower stress. Now, the reason why the first two slides are not related to books or studying or anything, it's only stress related. It's just that what happens for a lot of people is that you know your material, you studied, you went on Microsoft Learn, you did flashcards, you practiced in a sandbox, and then when you arrive to do the exam, you're like, oh my God, I've just forgot everything I learned in the last month. What happened? And you tend to panic, and you tend to become stressed, and you become anxious. And that sort of becomes like a death spiral. So that's why the stress management for an exam is probably the most important part. And this is not something that was taught only for Microsoft exams, but for across all standardized tests as well. So the tip number 3, again, science, is to eat a healthy diet. So here there's a study made at the University of Newcastle, which is in Australia, that has shown, again, positive correlation between a healthy diet and their university students' grades. Also, as part of that study, they noted that there was a significantly higher correlation between a high consumption of fruits and vegetables compared to other food items, such as, for example, soda. There was actually a negative correlation. There was also a negative correlation for highly processed food. So, for example, if you think that eating a cake or a donut is going to improve your grade, it's actually going to do the opposite effect. Another great thing is that if you look more locally, rather than the other side of the world, UBC actually recommends that you eat some type of an oatmeal bowl in the morning. If you are from the UK, that is probably known to you as porridge, for an early morning 8 a.m. exam. And that a great healthy snack is a combination of fruits and nuts. So for example, you can do apple and pecan, apple and walnut, pick your fruit, pick your nut. It's a great thing. Also, one thing that I recently learned is that if you go to prepare, for example, for the GMAT exam, which is the exam required to go for MBA program, if you prepare for the MCAT, which is a test required to go to medical school, or the GRE or the STAT, a lot of these standardized test tutors are going to tell you the first day in class is, please, this is not the time to go on a low carb diet, which is the likes of Atkins or most recently keto diet, simply because your brain needs to have healthy carbohydrates in order to function. So here on the right of the slide, I included a publication from Harvard Medical School, which is their healthy eating plate. So as per Harvard, this is what your plate looks like. Again, as you can see, half of the plate is filled up with fruits and vegetables for better studying and better exam success. As you can see, the first 3 tips have nothing to do with studying, but rather a healthy lifestyle. Now we're going to get into the actual more Microsoft specific content. So the tip number 4 is to pass exams in the right order. Now, Microsoft does not explicitly enforce a prerequisites, which means that they do not tell you, oh, by the way, in order for you to pass MB 210, you should pass MB 200 first. But rather what happens is that if you look closely at the Microsoft Dynamics exam objectives as close as I do on a daily basis, you're going to notice a certain pattern, which is that if you look at the Microsoft Dynamics product examination, 25% or more of the questions are related to configuration. So those product examination are sales, marketing, customer service, and field service. And also, the more interesting part is that if you look at the developer examination, which is MB 400, 50% of the exam objective weight is given to a lot of click-based customizations. So for example, that could be Microsoft Flow, that could be, for example, classic workflows in Dynamics 365 and other types of configuration. So by popular demand, I am putting this particular flowchart here simply because when I spoke at the Empower Your Career event, pretty much every person in the room, or actually in Teams, took a screenshot of this, and they wanted me to walk them through it in great details, which I will do for you again. This is by popular demand again. So the first question, and this is probably should be like my third iteration of this, is to put like a start point, simply because it's not extremely clear. I'm sorry. So the first question is, did you pass a Microsoft certification of any product? So whether that's Azure, that's I don't know, SharePoint, Office, whatever you want. If that's not your case, then you should go for MB 901, which is Dynamics 365 Fundamentals. The reason for that is that Microsoft's exams have sort of a style that you may not be accustomed to, and that if you were to go for MB 200, you might have the case of, oh my God, I studied for 2 months and forgot everything. So just get used to the format first. Now, if you did in the past, again, any product, the question I have for you is, did you pass MB 200, which is Dynamics 365 Power Platform Core? If that's not the case, then you should go for it, because pretty much every other Microsoft Dynamics 365 exam from that point is going to be dependent on you passing MB 200. Now, the next question for you, which is sort of a elimination question, which is, do you want to be a Dynamics 365 developer? And if yes, do you already know C# and JavaScript? If the answer is yes, then you can go ahead and go to, and again, go for MB 400, which is a developer exam. Now, the next question is mostly meant for Canadians as well as Americans who live within a driving distance of Washington, D.C. I know that there's somebody from Ottawa on the call, so this is for you, my friend. So the question is, number one, are you a citizen of the country that you live in? Number two, are you eligible for a security clearance? Number three, do you live in an area where a significant portions of contracts are from the government? So for example, if you live within driving distance of Ottawa or Washington, D.C., this is for you. Oh, as well as Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. If the answer to that is yes, then you should tomorrow morning go for MB 230, which is Dynamics 365 for customer service. The reason for that is that a lot of government entities as well as government bodies are currently implementing Dynamics 365, which is great. And that means that if you are within the Ottawa region, the demand for customer service is just ridiculous. So if you live in Ottawa and pass MB 200 as well as MB 230, please email me, because I do know quite a few recruiters in that area that are looking for that particular skill set. So just a public service announcement here. Now, if that's not your case, if you're not within that particular special situation, if you will, the next question I have for you is, do you work on a first-party app on a daily basis, or do you have expertise in its domain? So for example, are you a salesperson? Are you a marketing person? Did you work in customer success for several years? Or do you have expertise in field service? If that's your case, pass the examination that you have a particular expertise in, simply because it's going to be that much easier for you to make the transition from a previous career, for example, in sales or marketing, to the software space. If you have no idea and you're like, I'm just going to flip a coin, well, you should go for MB 210 Dynamics 365 for sales, simply because it is still the most widely used Dynamics product out there. Now, once you're a functional consultant associate, I'm going to go to the right sort of column, of this slide, which is your goal to go for the solution architect certification? If the answer is no, then you can just go ahead and do another functional consultant associate if you want. If the answer is yes, then the question I have for you is, did you pass MB 901 as well as PL 900? The reason why I ask this is that despite the fact that their name have fundamentals in the title, the exam are surprisingly not that easy. And technically speaking, when you do pass that solution architect exam, Microsoft has the right to ask you questions on any of the previous exam topics. So this is more of the situation of people that are known to have exam anxiety, such as myself, and don't want to take any risk whatsoever when they go for MB600. Now, once that's done, then you can just go ahead and pass MB600. So this is the decision flow chart of what exam should I go for. Tip number 5, which is something that is extremely close to my heart: use the right study resources. I'm going to give shout out to a few specific resources. The first one being Microsoft Learn, which is publicly available and is 100% free. When I started in the Dynamics community, the only resource we had was Customer Source if you work for an end user, or Partner Source if you work for a partner. If you were not in any of those situations, you were pretty much left out in the dark. Also, if you work for a Microsoft partner and they are paying for you to get certified, depending on your situation and promos going on and your learning budget, you might be able to get the Microsoft official courseware, which is available through a Microsoft Learning partner. Other awesome resources are community blogs. So 2 very specific blogs that I would like to give a mention to by name. The first one is, if you want to go from the more functional certifications, Neil Parker's blogs is simply amazing, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. Now, if you want to go for the developer certification, Joe Griffin, which blogs at CRM Chap, has done a wonderful resource to sort of offer the equivalent of what Neil Parker's is doing on the functional side, but on the technical side. There is also the Dynamics community forum, where I am a moderator. So you can ask questions and kind of say, hey, so for example, I'm studying right now business rules in Dynamics 365, and I have certain like hesitation for that particular topic, and people will actually answer you and say like, hey, so basically this is how it works. Also, there's my own online course, MS Dynamics Certified, and I probably forgot to mention, I'm sorry, if you are part of the CRM UG and that your employer is paying for your membership, you have access to a lot of virtual study groups, as well as virtual study webinars on there. Most recently, there was Julian Sharp as well as Joe Griffith, who did a webinar series about MB400. The next point that I would like to make to everybody is sort of a public service announcement, which is that brain dumps are not authorized by Microsoft, are banned by Microsoft, are unethical, and are actually ineffective. So again, when I started in this community 3 years ago, there was an average of about 75% of actual exam question which leaked on brain dumps. So what happened at a partner that I met once was that the practice lead took those brain dumps and he distributed them to his employee simply because he didn't want them to take the time to study for the exam, but to rather try to game the system, if you will. And Microsoft has learned from that. And what happened is that they have gotten, along with person views, that much better to make sure that exam questions do not leak out, and to have backup plans in case that it does. So I can tell you that in 3 years, the percentage of questions that have leaked have gone from 75 to 40% to 25 to 0 now. So if you see questions like that, you can be sure that they have been retired by Microsoft. And also the other reason why I'm against brain dump personally is that it's basically like stealing the teacher's exam sheet before taking the actual exam. And also it sort of devalues everyone's certification as well. And unfortunately, as we saw in the last week, unfortunately, based on studies, it seems to impact racialized communities even more. So please, everybody, just don't touch them. And also one thing that I found out over the years is that they are extremely ineffective. If you go on the Dynamics community, you will see a lot of people who said, oh, I studied from this resource and I failed very close to 700. So that's Microsoft's algorithm going in the back, trying to figure out who is trying to game the system and making those people fail automatically. So as you can see, there's no point. Now, tip number 6, using multiple study methods. So again, more science, more studies. So there's a team at Washington universities which showed that using multiple study methods is the most effective way to study. So what does that mean? It means you should do reading, a combination of reading, videos, taking notes, doing flashcards, which, by the way, was what I did when I first started, before I started doing MS Dynamics Certified, was I went to a stationery store and I bought those 3 by 9 inches flashcard, and I just took pen and paper, and I just take, okay, business rule, what is that? And then I put a definition or vice versa, so that I would be able to know those concepts. And also another wonderful tool is, of course, practicing in a sandbox, which is also what I did. So for example, if you're watching a tutorial on how to create a workflow, what I would do, especially if you have a dual monitor setup like I have, is have the video playing in one screen and then your sandbox in another screen. And when the person giving the training is doing a particular step, just pause the video, do that step, then play the video again, see that next step, and just go back to your sandbox and perform that step, and back and forth like that. Because that way, it's going to stick in your brain much more effectively than just reading about how to create a workflow. Another great study tip that I have for you is one study session, one topic. So for example, let's talk about workflow again. If you are in your syllabus and that your next topic is workflow, only study workflow. Because what could happen is that if you try to cram 5 hours of session, 5 hours of study in one session, and you're studying multiple topics, what could happen is that your brain could make the wrong associations. So for example, you might think, okay, workflow means that I can show or hide fields on a form, whereas that's actually done by a business rule. So I just want to make sure that you don't get confused in terms of topics. So make sure also that you study a different topic every day. So for example, one day you could do workflow, another day you could do forms, another day you can do entities, and so on and so forth. The other tip I have is going to sound quite counterintuitive for most people, but please do take breaks. It's actually ineffective if you do not take your break. A good average based on again, more scientific studies is that you should take a break of 5 minutes every 30 minutes, which has been formalized by the Pomodoro method, which I'm a huge fan of, or take a 10 minutes break every 1 hour. And during your break, just don't check your work email or do that type of stuff. Just do something completely unrelated. So for example, that could be cooking, watching a cat video on YouTube, or some stand-up comedy. You do you. So just do something else completely. The 9th tip I have for you is to see the examination as a game and as a sport, which I've been doing actually for the last 3 years without knowing it until my own manager just pointed that out to me. So here the approach is to see, okay, I'm going to take this as a challenge. If I pass, if I fail, who cares? I can always do a retake. And the reason why that worked is that you stop stressing so much and you stop having so much anxiety, but rather you kind of see it as a bet against yourself. So that's another tip for you. And the last and final tip is do not study on D-Day. Do not open Microsoft Learn. Do not open Google in terms of how to create a workflow or how to create a business rule or whatever. Just don't study at all. Just don't touch it. The reason for that is that you will not remember anything. Been there, done that. You will be even more anxious. Again, we were talking about that death spiral of stress. And just do something which is completely not related to Microsoft Dynamics. You can do some yoga, which would actually be a great option. You can also do some cardio exercise, again, a wonderful option. You can do something which is stress relieving so that when you go into the exam, you are focused and your brain can focus on the task of answering the question one at a time. So hopefully we have time for questions. And don't be shy to ask them. Really, ask me anything.
Hi, Vicky.
Hey, who is it?
It's Mithali here.
Hi.
Hi, Vicky. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you. I follow you over LinkedIn, your posts
Yeah.
and good too. So I'm a connection over LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I just had this quick question about the
Yes.
presentation that you have shared because I'm going to go for the MB200 certification like
Okay.
this. And I actually, would like to, see this presentation, like, go through it, like whatever tips you have given, that might be, helpful for me. And I think you have shared some blogs, like
Yes.
I know Neil's blog, but I'm not aware of CRM chat. So I'd like if you can, it would be helpful if you can share this presentation over email or, over the link.
So what I'm going to do is after this, wait, you said you're going for MB200?
MB200, yeah, because I have not, given my certification, earlier certification will be expiring, the Dynamics 365 customization and configuration. I think that will be expiring in June. That's what Microsoft actually announced. So I'll be giving first the MB200 and maybe later I might try for the 400 because I'm a senior developer based out of Toronto here in Canada. So I actually usually work on Dynamics CRM contracts basically, and I want to, I'm been learning Power Platform and not got much projects on that, but I am keen to learn and take this certification so that it will be useful.
Perfect. So one thing that I have for you is there is somebody who went to my Empower Career conference, and that individual found the Mark Smith video that were mysteriously taken out of the internet on December 31st. So I do have a copy of those videos. And what I'm going to do is after this, I'm going to create a blog post that will be shared on LinkedIn with a link to all the videos and this particular slide deck, as well as a bunch of links. So you should see that later tonight. So I got you covered.
Thank you so much. Yeah, because I think these tips, what you have shared in the presentation, are useful, and I'll utilize this time, like to get this, the certification done.
Yeah, and after that, you can go to California Sandwich on Washington to go and celebrate, because that's the one place I do miss about Toronto, because I actually lived there for a year. So go to California when you pass.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll just drop you a message over LinkedIn also.
Okay, perfect.